Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second WOBA talk, the role of women leaders in the clean energy transition. I'm Nela Vlahinić. I'm head of programs in WOBA. It is an immense pleasure to see interest among the professional community in Adria region. We have started WOBA last year as a regional non-for-profit initiative with the purpose to increase gender diversity in executive and executive leadership. It is an umbrella association for the promotion of gender equality at the decision-making level. Today, we are continuing what will hopefully become a tradition, place and time where we will meet regularly to have the opportunity to hear from the women who have walked the path of professional accomplishment and can share their wisdoms and lessons learned. Today with us are amazing women and one of the first supporters of WOBA, Maja Turković, Executive Vice President at CWP Europe, leading renewable energy company. Professor Nela Vlahinić, President of X Energy, an NGO that gathers experts who actively promote the role and visibility of women in the energy transition. And Masa Njegovan, Sustainability and Climate Leader at Deloitte Serbia. They're all generously devoting their time and knowledge to empowering women across the region. And thank you so much for being here with us today. Masha will be moderating this session. Masha, please, the floor is yours. And Masha will also introduce our speakers in more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Nevena. Thank you to everybody who joined us, and especially to our speakers today. Welcome to the second WOBA webinar. Today's webinar is really focused on the role of women leaders in the clean energy transition. And as you know, clean energy transition is something that is really an imperative in the world we live in today, where we need to quickly decarbonize the entire economy in all countries across the world in order to prevent catastrophic consequences of climate change. So in today's discussion, I will moderate really conversation with two outstanding women who are established leaders in the energy sector in our region. Together with me, I have Maja Turković, who is the Executive Vice President at CWP Global, a global developer of renewable energy projects and very accomplished in our region. She's also a WOBA ambassador, and Maja really brings 20 years and more than 20 years of experience across renewable energy policymaking, project development, and utility restructuring. So she can really share valuable experiences with our today's audience. Beyond her professional achievements, Maja is also passionate about empowering women in sustainable energy, and she will tell us more about the initiative she has recently co-founded in Serbia. The other speaker is equally esteemed. It is Nela Vlahinić, who is the president of X Energy. X Energy, as Nevena mentioned, it's an NGO that gathers experts who actively promote the role and visibility of women in the energy transition. Nela is also the head of the MBA Energy Economics at the University of Rijeka, and she brings wealthy experience from the higher education and energy sectors equally. She has specialized in building partnerships for the energy transition, and she will also share invaluable experiences she has built throughout her career. So without further ado, let's get the conversation started. My first question is for Maja. So Maja, reflecting on your journey in the energy sector, what have been some of the most significant barriers for women that you have experienced, and how did you personally overcome them? Another question I think we can look at is if you can share the tips and really share any kind of recommendations for women who are listening to us today so that you can empower them to take up more leadership in this field.
Thank you, Masha. Thank you, firstly, for inviting me. I am sorry I cannot see the audience. It's always, at least for us women, it's easier when we communicate in person. But I hope it's not going to hinder our talks. I'm just imagining I'm talking to a lot of women. So we have in the energy sector and the green energy agenda, we have passed through some tremendous change in the paradigm. So it has become really a critical industry for the survival of the economy and the society. And I think the women play a very important role in that. Your first question was about the barriers that typically I can't really say I grew up in a male environment. So we know what are the typical barriers that women face throughout their advancement in the career. Firstly, it's always related to the gender biases and stereotypes, which are very it can be very critical because they can really manifest in many ways, like hiring practices, some decisions on the promotions. They can affect the culture in the workplace, and that all results in some unequal opportunities for women to advance in their careers as compared to men. I cannot really say I experienced all of that, and I'm trying in my company never to have issues of this kind. But nevertheless, this is important to mention as a typical barrier that most of the women face. Secondly, what is very much present, I think, throughout all industries and all markets or geographies, it's always this glass ceiling or the leadership, the underrepresentation of women in leadership positions that affects negatively women's visibility, influence, and also the opportunity and ability to shape some decision-making processes within the organizations they work in. I think this is something that women on Board Adria are really addressing as one of the priorities. And we see that present in most of the companies in our industry, even though we are considered like more gender inclusive industry for the reasons I assume we'll talk later on. Some of the women have limited access to training and education. I would not say that is the critical thing, at least not in Serbia. I would say this is less of a importance or a matter. We see a high representation of women throughout the studies, and then when we advertise hiring positions in our company. But something that we see as improvement space, and something that a lot of organizations have started working on are mentorship programs and networking opportunities for women. Because sometimes women face challenges in finding proper mentors or sponsors and some professional networks to support their career development. And finally, I would say this is always critical, and this applies to myself as well. It is always hard to find this work-life balance. And then even though it's sometimes it's undervalued as, kind of business as usual thing, like men, they also have families and they have careers. So, but it's really for women much more difficult because if you work long hours, you travel a lot, like I do. Our work is very much project-based, which means we have very strict deadlines. So we have periods of time when we are extremely working long hours and we need to meet the deadlines, and this absolutely affects the work-life balance. So this is, I think this is one of the main barriers, if you ask me, because if you are really devoted and you want to do your work properly, then it's not gonna help with your other like caregiving obligations in your family. And finally, I have to mention, I never experienced anything of that, but I know this is also an issue. It's also that some work environments for women are hostile. They are not all companies have a very strong culture when it comes to gender equality, and a lot of women also face harassment issues. And this is very, I left that for the last point in my first answer, because this is really undermining the confidence of the women and her well-being, and actually the sense of belonging to that culture and the industry. So I think it's very important to mention that point.
Thank you, Maja. I can relate to that. I experienced this in some parts of my career, unfortunately. Nela, from your perspective, from the academia and your work with the NGO, what do you see as the most pressing challenges that women face in the energy sector? And on the other hand, what kind of unique opportunities do you see that clean energy transition presents for women professionals?
Well, first, I would like to say hello to everyone, although I cannot see the whole audience. And I would like to thank the organizers for the invitation, which I gladly accepted. So we are talking about really a crucial topic today, and the process of empowering women, especially in traditionally male-dominated industry, like energy industry, is really not an easy task because it requires different approaches, different measures, and different policies. And that's why, because the barriers for women are complex, as Maja said, and we will definitely discuss some other barriers as well. These barriers are derived from many factors. Some are external, like specifics of energy sector that involve field work, for example, educational system, we will talk about it, traditional gender roles, the lack of infrastructural support for young women, for example, and so on. But I would like to emphasize that some barriers for women also come from some internal factors, like, for example, women, some of them, or in general, do not have enough self-confidence very often. So I saw it so many times that women are ready, for example, to apply for advancement in their career or for new job or for some project only when they are completely sure, 100% sure in their competencies and skills. So while men in general more often apply with lower competencies, and they don't bother too much because they learn in a process, and I think it's good approach. So sometimes, or very often, I would say, women are too cautious and prone to underestimate their success, and somehow they even diminish their ambitions because society, especially traditional one, doesn't, let's say, like too successful women. So these are also some internal, deeply embodied barriers in our society, I would say. So therefore, because of all these barriers, it is crucial to have different approaches to support women. And I can say a few words about NGO that I'm leading. So this is X Energy, empowering women in energy transition. So we are a little bit specific because we are not only exclusively female NGO. We think that in the cooperation with our male colleagues, we can reach better results. So we have different activities. Some of these activities are exclusively targeting women, like mentorship program, like internship program. Mentorship program is meant for young women at the beginning of their careers. Internship program is for female students at the end of their master program. And we have some other activities like educational programs and so on. But some other activities are targeting all our members, women and men, and corporate members as well, like roundtables, panel discussions, educational programs, and networking events. So, but we are always taking care that at least half of our participants are women. So mentorship program is really important. As Maja said, mentorship is crucial for especially young women. And I would also add networking, because I would say that networking is, so to speak, more male domain, and women are often excluded from the boys' club. So therefore, one of the goals of X Energy is to provide a networking platform for women and men as well, because we think that these business connections open new opportunities, new ideas, new projects. And that's why it is important to involve women together with their male colleagues. So the second part of your question was regarding my work at university. So yes, I was I am still the head of MBA, postgraduate MBA program in energy economics for 13 years now. And my experience is that although we had more men during this program, I can see, or I saw so many successful women, so many capable women, let's say somewhere in the middle of the executive, at the middle of executive levels, but somehow, as I said, they are not ready to be exposed at the spotlight, and they are much more cautious about their next step in the career. So that was the main motivation to establish X Energy together with my two female colleagues, and to give support to those women.
That's amazing. Thank you, Nela. And we hope you will share more about your work with X Energy throughout the webinar. Now we're going back to the topic of really building a career in the renewable energy space. And Maja, I have a question for you. So given your role at CWP Global and your experience in developing renewable energy projects, what do you see as the most innovative trends in renewable energy that could accelerate the clean energy transition? And how can women really be part and contribute to these innovations?
As I said, the paradigm completely changed for the green energy. And then on top, we have this now nexus, so the digital economy, digital agenda and green agenda actually intersecting, if you want. So of course, there are a lot of advancements when it comes to technology products. And actually, you see a lot of women researchers who are contributing a lot in this area. What we see as a coming trend is you'll see more advancement of hybrid technologies and energy storage solutions. This is something that even though the whole world talks about storage, we are just at the beginning of implementing that technology. And you again see a lot of women. Actually, we have one outstanding woman that is quite famous for her research in this area. It's the Dr. Meng she was a co-founder of one company, and she worked on advancement in lithium-ion batteries, which enable greater efficiency and reliability, and everything related to battery technology and energy storage solutions. And this allowed basically the scalability of those projects in terms of the scale of our industry. So she's just one of a few examples. We also have a lot of technological advancements on the side of the critical materials. And we also have another woman that is an innovator. She was a chief scientist at BP, at British Petroleum. She worked on development of some advanced materials and technologies that we apply in our industry. And this is very inspiring, because actually there are a lot of women who are very, play important role, and they're very famous for what they did for our industry. We will have more intelligent networks, smart grids, smart infrastructure. There will be much more usage of artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain technologies, digital twins, everything digital related that is now very much implemented in the green agenda, in the energy transition. And there will be more of that. Another example is another very outstanding woman, Dr. Huang, who worked on the blockchain technology that had an application in the markets for environmental commodities, including the renewable energy certificates. This is something that the industry basically was built on. This was before we had market environment, and everything was basically under some kind of subsidies. And there are a lot of examples of this kind, and I actually find that very inspiring, that I learned that there are many women basically who enable this to happen, that now we are working in the industry that was not really built by men alone, but there were a lot of women, in that sphere that, mostly not in the research part, which brings us to what role of the woman can have, in this. Well, where is that we bring more value, we have, what you want to have is diverse talents and some specific expertise that women can bring to this table. And all those innovative contributions, I just mentioned a few, are basically driving the progress through this more sustainable and equitable future that we all want to have. So I think this just demonstrates how important is gender diversity and inclusion in shaping this green agenda. So what do women bring? Of course, we bring different diverse perspectives, some creative problem-solving skills, and I would emphasize maybe these collaborative approaches, because this is one of our traits, that where we are good at, So just, for the companies to foster this inclusive work environments and empower women more, and maybe more to take more leadership roles and, participate in decision making. This would enable them to harness the full potential of the whole talent pool, and this would bring the meaningful change.
Thank you, Maja. These examples are super inspiring, and I think, and hopefully they will inspire more women to enter into this space, both as researchers and professionals in project development. And Nela, we're going back to you and your story with X Energy. Can you tell us and give us some examples of how X Energy has made a difference in the promotion of women's visibility and participation in the energy transition?
Well, X Energy is NGO and networking platform, and we would like to contribute. We are aiming to contribute to sustainable development goals, especially gender equality and green transition. Maybe I will go a step back and answer or add some additional explanations regarding women's role in green energy transition, because I think it's really important to emphasize that nowadays energy sector is going through complete change, through really crucial changes, and I think that opportunities for women nowadays are much bigger, much better, because 20 years ago or 10 years ago, energy sector was dominated by centralized state-owned companies with big power plants and relatively small number of big energy projects. Today, we can see that there are many small projects like renewable energy projects, energy efficiency projects, digital solutions, smart grids, and so on. So all these huge number of small projects give much more space for women and their active role. So I'm not talking only about women engineers, I'm also talking about economists, lawyers, all other women from all other fields, because energy issues are definitely are for sure multidisciplinary and complex. So energy industry today is not only a field work, it's about programming, managing, complying with regulatory framework. So as Maja said, teamwork is today even more important, and it is scientifically proven in many studies that women are more team players than men. So there are social skills, so we often call them soft skills, especially welcomed in those multidisciplinary teams. So I'm very happy to say that almost all men in X Energy said that their experience with the female and male team work is much better than just working with men. And I'm not only talking about teamwork, I'm also said that their experience with women leaders and managers is very good. They all said that they want to have CEOs, women CEOs. So it gives me hope that in synergy with female and male energy, we can do some real changes. And X Energy is doing its best in many activities. Since we are young NGO, so we are celebrating our first birthday in 2 weeks. But the idea was to gather really successful women and men in our advisory board. And then, of course, together with them, offer many activities to our members. Now our membership is quite wide, and we are very happy to see that they really want to be involved in our mentoring program, internship program, and especially many educational opportunities that we are offering, because nowadays it's really crucial to have multidisciplinary knowledge and skills. So for engineers, it is so important to have economic and financial skills or understanding, as well as for economists and lawyers. It is crucial to understand technical background, because only in that way they can reach competent decisions and manage multidisciplinary teams. So we are trying to have many networking events, because, as I said, we think that networking is especially important for women, and we are trying to involve them. We're trying to give them at the spotlight, because there are so many successful women that are not prone to be, visible. And that's my realization from many years of my experience. That somehow women don't like to be so much visible, and that is our aim, to give them put them on the spotlight, as well as to give them necessary support at the beginning of their careers.
That sounds great. Thank you very much, Nela, for sharing those practical tips. Maja, we're going back to you, and since you have been recently appointed to the advisory board of WISE, the Women of Serbia in Sustainable Energy Network, can you tell us a little bit more about the vision of this new initiative, and what kind of new projects and initiatives do you plan to launch through this platform? How do you aim to strengthen the role of women in the energy transition?
Thank you. So WISE Serbia is not really a new initiative. It's a network of women in sustainable energy. That's the name. And I was one of the co-founders. It started like a few women initiated this survey, and which resulted. This was in 2017. So WISE, this is when WISE was established. So together with Branislav Jović from Baku Energy News, and Višnja Bačanović, she was key researcher. She was very much involved in some gender initiatives from the civil society point of view, I would say. And we ran surveys on different topics. One was the role of women both in households and businesses in the energy transition. There was another one on the leadership for change, basically women in sustainable energy and climate change and the protection of the environment. And now the network has over 300 women from various companies who are very active. And this is really a great company to be in, because it's these women really are striving to make a change, and they have real results in whatever they are doing. It's a very wide base. They're women from different companies in different sectors, all of which have some role in the future of sustainable energy and how actually we get there. So this last year there was this. We established this annual leadership award in energy transition, the leaders of the energy transition among women. I was one of three. That was a great honor for me in the business sphere. The other two were our Minister of Energy, Dubravka Đedović-Handanović, because she really brought this. We had a tremendous progress on the regulatory part and the auctions, and this is something that really enabled the faster deployment of renewables in the country. So that was that's very important to mention. And the third woman was somebody who is a woman. She was basically the first presumer in Serbia, and she shared all her experience in going through this process and all the hurdles along the way. And I think that was the most read article since that bulk of the energy news portal exists, because it just attracted so much attention from everyone, and this was, so she was basically the leader as a consumer, basically as a consumer, if you want, so if you want to put your solar panels on the rooftop of your house, this is what you have to go through, and this was very interesting to learn about that. And there was an event that basically where we got those awards. I think this is important, and this is going to be now the regular yearly award, because we want to give women more visibility, and we want to involve women from various companies and various sectors where they work, obviously contributing to the aim of the sustainable future and sustainable economy. And I think this is going to bring more visibility and maybe inspire women to do something exceptional, because this will be rewarded. Other than that, we do have also a mentorship program for young women. This is mainly for the students, the level of the postgraduates usually, so the women who are about to start their professional career after the university degrees. And again, this all looks similar if you look across the organizations, similar organizations worldwide and in the region, but I think this is not limited to our region. It's everywhere like that. We did a lot of research on other organizations that are doing similarly, which only tells that actually we identify the same areas where we have to be active to bring some positive change. So we are also going with networking events, because I think women need this platform where they can connect, and it's going to help them with their career development. So that's in short about WISE. And yes, I'm a member of the advisory board now, and I'm really hoping we're going to do something meaningful and do some, positive, things for especially young women who are just about to face everything all of us already went through. And this is probably where mentorship should come in place as just rights.
Thank you, Maja. It's great to have this kind of initiative and also to reward the women who have made significant accomplishments in the energy sector. Nela, in your advocacy work, I guess you have tried and faced different types of policies and initiatives to promote greater gender diversity in the energy sector. What initiatives and what kind of policies do you see to be most effective in actually increasing, the share of women in the energy sector? Is it setting some kind of targets for share of women in the workforce or management positions, or is it something else? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I would like to say that crucial is the cooperation between governments and business, and of course NGO sector. So governments and business should collaborate, of course, but I would say that governments should show the example as well. We haven't talked about it yet, but maybe it's a time to emphasize that the data shows that governments itself do not haven't done enough. So according to new data about Croatia, a very small proportion of women are at the head of ministries. For example, in Croatia, there are only 4 women ministers. And when you go deeper into data, on a European level or even on a global level, you can see, even in Scandinavian countries, you can see that women are far more often at the head of, let's say, less economically important ministries, like a Ministry of Social Affairs or Family, even Environment, but Ministry of Economy, Energy, Infrastructure and Traffic, Internal Affairs are always headed by men. Almost always headed by men. So it also shows that women are at the margins on the governmental level as well. Last week we had a roundtable about women's role in energy sector in Croatia, and the newest research data on women's position in energy sector in Croatia show that 13% of companies where there were 13% of companies where women are CEOs, 17% of companies where women are deputy CEOs. So I'm talking about energy sector and energy companies, and 35% 31% of companies where women are board members. So obviously, when we are talking about governmental level, national level, these examples are not good. And then when you talk, when we see public as well as private sector, then we can also see the same situation. So yes, there are some policies and initiatives, as I said, like mentorship program and so on. Role models, establishing role models is very important, as Maja explained. So successful women that have accomplished a lot in male-dominated field like energy is really inspiring to young women especially. But something that I would like to add is regulatory framework is very important. And I think Women on Board Directive will be a game changer that will change a perception of women on top executive levels. So although it will start with management and supervisory boards on listed companies, it will set standards for other big and then hopefully small and medium-sized enterprises as well. So regulatory framework is something that will change the environment, let's say. And of course, maybe the most important issue is education. Education is really crucial. I'm not just talking about higher education, I'm talking about lifelong education and training for women, like management skills or some multidisciplinary skills that are necessary today to understand all these complex challenges in energy sectors. So education that gives some paradigmas, some stereotypes, gender stereotypes that still exist. For example, if you analyze in a details textbooks, you can see that engineers are usually always men. I mean, always men, I would say, at least in our textbooks. And female roles are like usually teachers, nurses, social workers, and so on. So, of course, this process of empowering women will take time because these gender roles are so deeply embodied in the way how our society is thinking. But I would say that changes are under their way, and we can really see not just excellent women, but we can see the change in attitudes among men as well. And it's really encouraging because I would say that younger generation are quite different than the older one. And this is the beginning of the change, I would say.
Thank you very much, Nela. And one thing you mentioned, I think is really important to recognize is that many women don't believe, don't have enough confidence and feeling of self-worth. So this is really what prevents them to growing in their leadership and career. Maja, you are an accomplished leader. Have you felt or experienced this kind of self-doubt at any point of your career? And how did you deal with that, if yes or otherwise? What do you see as some of the challenges that women face, as they progress to their career? Because I can see as a positive note that there are quite a lot of women leaders in the energy sector, at least in the renewable energy sector in Serbia. What do you think was, the key success factor that brought to that?
No, it's very hard to tell. I agree with Nela that the environment has changed. So now the perception from our male colleagues, it's quite different. What was in place when I started my career. Just to give an example, we just last week, I think, we had this the workshop on emotional intelligence, and this was basically organized for women, but we have a lot of our colleagues also attending that, which is very interesting. I think it's very hard to say. I think, a lot of, we all find our ways. There's not really the recipe, the one should follow for some women, the role model works. Nela mentioned that. I did have mine. That was my mother, actually. So my mom was my role model. So I did pull a lot of strength from that. I couldn't say anything less. But advocating for yourself in your workplace, it's understanding what your main competencies are. What really do you want to do, and if you are well suited for their job, because there's really a variety. What we saw is that, and we did have that experience in CWT. We would have a young woman coming straight from the university, but she doesn't really know what she wants to do. Are you like the kind of person, you are seeing a big picture, or you're going, like you have attention to detail, understanding yourself better helps really, so that you are not on the wrong track, because I can, but this topic is very, it has become very, popular lately. But I remember one of the first conferences with this gender angle. I think this was at least 10 years ago, earlier, and this was the conference that was engineering thing. There was like 300 engineers, of which some were women. And for the first time ever, and there was one panel on this gender angle, how like female colleagues in that environment. It was full of men in the audience because there were just not too many women. And then I was one of the speakers. I don't even remember what I was talking on that occasion, but I remember two other women, they were talking still today. So one woman, because we had no idea, there was no agenda or preparation. It's totally like stand-up thing. You get out there and you talk something about, to experience what you think. That came out very naturally. So you can't really prepare for that. You just, you have to be open to speak. So one of the women talked only about her role model since her like early, primary school time until, later in the career. I don't even remember how old she was, but, her whole speech was about some significant woman that meant something for her. And she only showed pictures of 5 women and talked about that, so which I still remember today. And the second, also very interesting speech was, there was this woman or a girl, she graduated electrical engineering, because this is very common. We have different, professions, but it comes critical when you're in this group of male engineers. This is the fact is. So she ended up in one of the engineering companies in the apartment with 10 men, and they would have and everybody didn't even look at her. Like she was like, this kid came and, nobody even talked to her. And then they would go on a field trip and then they would come back and she said, well, should I do the report? And they said, well, why not? If you're volunteering, and she did the report. And then they kind of started accepting her because she figured out that men that don't like it, to structure report, or that kind of presenting, and then they had this kind of device that they brought. This is very similar story, just to tell you about the pattern, that they were testing, and it didn't work. So one after another, there were like 10 or 8 men in that office, engineers, and they tried to test this device. And one would come and try something, push the buttons, didn't work. Then the other one comes and and she's looking, and she started reading the manual. And then they're like, what are you doing? Well, I'm reading the manual. And they just like, okay, crazy woman, And at some point she read it, and then she came and did the right thing, and it started working. And finally they accepted her into the club, But the lesson is, it's women, men don't like to read manuals. I don't know if you experience that at home, but my husband never reads any manual. He always tries to figure it out himself what to do if the TV or computer doesn't work. He would never ever read anything. This is something. Why I'm telling you all of that. Different women had different paths, and they found their way. With if you really aspire to if you have a passion for your career, to do something, and you're trying to pursue that, probably you should seek out some mentors if you're at the beginning of the career. This is going to help a lot. As I said, you have to advocate for yourself in the workplace. This helps building this inclusive culture in the companies, which we see more of that nowadays compared to the previous time. But I can't really tell there's a recipe, you know. In my case, I was looking at my mother, I have to tell you, and then I was trying to be as good as she was at that time, you know, and I think it worked. I mean, she should be content, you know, where I ended up, you know, but simple as that, you know, not necessarily every woman should, you know, follow the same path, you know, but there are numerous opportunities. It very much helps if you know what you're good at and what you want to do. Not every woman can go into entrepreneurship. This is very specific, you know. Or, you know, policy and advocacy, you know, or R&D, where you need to, you know, excel in a technical expertise, you know, or be a leader in some company, you know, be on board of some, you know, big company, you know. Those are really very different career paths, you know. So, usually women, when they're about to choose what they want to do, we are all quite young. I think that the educational system has put these decision-making in terms of what you want to do in the career, where you want to go too early. For young people, this is not related to women only, but to everyone to actually choose. And you see a lot of people trying something and then completely switching, which I don't think it's the end of the world. It's totally normal, especially for young people. They have to search and find themselves, you know, what they want to do. So, yeah, I don't know if it helped, but from my experience, I think, you know, to put it in one sentence, it was just my mother, you know, I think she was my role model. Yeah.
Yeah, so just to underline, so finding what you're good at, then finding a role model, and then finding a good mentor, the three key messages for young women. Thank you very much, Maja. I see that there are a couple of hands raised. So for the audience, we are unfortunately not able to let you speak up, but if you can write your questions in the chat, then we will be happy to answer those within the webinar. We still have a couple of questions left, but while we are waiting for the audience to tune in, perhaps Nela,
maybe I can add one sentence or two regarding my role model. It is my daughter, you know, because I have a daughter and a son, but somehow I admire these new generations. They are so brave. They are much braver than my generation, and I adore it because, in fact, every time after talking with her, she gave me some new, not strength, but just a courage to do something that I was thinking that it is not possible or maybe too hard for me. And I really like that complete new idea of the world when you can do everything. And young women today are different, and that's really a hope for me and for all of us that these traditional stereotypes will really change during time. For example, now when I see around my house, I can see young men with small babies. It was not in my time when I had small babies. So really the world is changing and these traditional roles are changing, and women somehow are more brave to take a new role in energy sector, in green energy transition in all industries. And these are great news, I would say.
Thank you, Nela. And I would just like to go a little bit back to your experience as an experienced academic professor. And can you tell us a little bit about some ideas how we can attract more women to STEM? Maja already mentioned that some of the women researchers are playing a great role in driving clean energy transition. How do you think we can get more women to these STEM fields and make them more appealing to them?
It's not, again, an easy answer. For example, last week on that panel discussion on FAIR is Faculty of Electrical Engineering and Computing in Zagreb. This is really the top faculty in the STEM field. and they presented their data, new data. Of course, today there are more female students than there were 10 or 20 years ago. They even have 50%, in fact, 49%, but okay, half of the teaching assistants on their faculty. So that's great news. They even have 40% of female PhD students. It all sounds great, but in fact, when you look at the data at the highest position, full professor position on their faculty, there are just a few women on a very huge faculty that I'm talking about. So obviously, as Maja said at the beginning, there is a glass ceiling still when we are talking about a top position. And what can we do in supporting them to choose STEM field? Well, obviously, it depends on their personal choices, of course, but mentorship program is again very interesting one. I would say that we can orient young women towards these professions, and even before in the high school, we can show them that women engineers are great, that women engineers can really do a great stuff. So it goes to elementary school, and even before that we can show young girls that they can really choose whatever they want, and they can be whatever they want. So it goes much further, and it comes to the family, to the gender roles in our families, and this is obviously a long-term process that will take time. But anyhow, as I said, when they choose faculties in the STEM field, then we can help them to finish it, to give them some support in order to find their first jobs, to mentoring them. And I don't think mentoring just as mentoring in the technical skills. It is also mentoring in some social skills, or let's say to advise them or to support them in some business situations when they need to be, let's say, mature, or when they need some extra help to solve that situation or those situations. So this is, as I said, complex process, and we need the collaboration of governments, private sector, public sector, of course, educational sector, definitely, and NGO sector. So we need bottom-up and top-up approach to reach some good results.
Thank you very much, Nela. And there are some great examples of those types of initiatives in our region. I know that one organization has launched a Girls in STEM newsletter, and they are giving some ideas and tips to parents how they can actually, well, nudge their daughters towards STEM fields, which I think is really great. Yeah. Okay, and going back, since we don't have too much time, going back to actually the main topic of today's webinar, which is women leaders in clean energy transition. So I have a question for both of you ladies. What qualities do you think make a successful leader, women leader in the clean energy transition? Maja, perhaps you can answer
yes,
first.
Thank you. So firstly, I think it's empathy. Empathy is good. It is not bad. Empathy is good for business. And our emotional intelligence, of course, because it will help us motivate people. It will help us increase belief in ourselves and in others, and build trust. And then this comes to this helps basically something where women are especially good at, which is I think one of the main I would say characteristics for a successful female leader is collaborative leadership. I think women usually often excel in these collaborative environments, and we are very skilled to build consensus among different diverse groups of different kinds. Second thing is obviously communication. I think this is very important. I think women leaders are equipped with strong communication skills, because you have to be able to articulate whatever you're saying, either, towards your team, motivating them, or, sending the message about the benefits of, for example, deployment of renewable energy or clean energy solutions, or similarly. And to diverse publics, to decision makers, to the public, to the wide public, to policymakers, to investors, to lenders. This is where you have to be able to communicate properly, because all of these communication channels have their specifics. I think women leaders have to have certain, creativity in their work, because this is helping them bring some fresh perspectives and some innovative ideas to the table. Also, thinking outside of the box helps. Not all leaders have that, but definitely helps. And of course, that helps finding the creative solutions to some very complex, problems or challenges whatever your business is facing. Empathy and inclusivity I already mentioned. And finally, helps if you are resilient, if you are determined in what you do. And this is something we see female leaders often demonstrating resilience and this determination when they face obstacles and some adversity of whatever kind. So this is in short what I think are, of course, it looks like a what is that word? The photo robot or something, when you're in this picture or something, right? But, the combination of these, we cannot excel in everything, that's obvious, but just understanding what characteristics is going to help us get. And then so we can work on them, because there are lots of things that can be learned. A lot of those skills are learned, they are not born with them. You can basically invest in equipping yourselves with these skills to help you climb this ladder, I would say, which brings me to I just want to say, I read, this is basically kind of advice, it's not mine, but I just love it. It was written by Ariana Huffington, and because I mentioned this climbing up the ladder. So it's a kind of advice to all women. Not necessarily young ones for the beginning of the career, but all of us, women tend to think of their careers in terms of ladders. So we are just going up to shatter this glass ceiling. You mentioned that a few times today. So this is great. There's nothing wrong with that. It's perfectly fine. But while we are doing that, let's just look to each side and widen a little these ladders. So not just climb it alone. Which means, so whenever you're in a position to help other women do it, we can make this ladder wider and then bring other women with us going up the ladder. This is the best thing absolutely we can do.
That's an amazing message to end this conversation with. But let's first hear what Nela has to share on this perspective.
Anything else, because Maja pretty much covered everything. Really, I would say successful leaders in any industry, as well as in energy industry or green energy transition, should possess a combination of some skills, of course, knowledge, some expertise, visionary thinking, maybe this I would like to emphasize, and of course, ability to collaborate. And I would say that all of these are really immense to women. Regarding technical expertise, of course, a good understanding of new technologies and everything is crucial. And that's why training and education is so important. Visionary thinking, well, women are very often have that innovative approach. They foster inclusivity, that is very important. Encourage diverse perspectives, and therefore it is good because it creates a more collaborative work culture within the energy sector. And regarding communication skills, it's well proved in many studies that women have higher emotional intelligence and are generally better than men in these soft skills. So these are really our competitive advantage, so to speak. So visionary thinking, as I said, is important, and especially within this complex environment, energy landscape. So women can do everything of that, and I think collaboration between all the stakeholders, including government agencies, businesses, NGOs, and communities, are really crucial in order to really reach sustainable development goals that we set.
Thank you very much, Nela.
Inspiring quote for the end, but that quote that Maja said was really, really great and really inspiring for the end of this discussion.
That's something to keep us thinking how we can be of help to other women. Yes, that's a great message to close this discussion with. Ladies, Nela, Maja, thank you very much for sharing your invaluable experiences today, and thank you to the audience for being with us. Stay tuned for more WOBA Talks.